Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new. I hope you're all doing well and welcome back to my March wrap up. I think I've said this enough now, but March hit me like a tidal wave. I hit a major slump and my TBR went completely out the window in the fact that I read no books off it apart from one. So that's fun, but I did just kind of take this month as a reset. I just kind of did what I wanted to do, i.e. play Sims, watch Wizards of Waverly Place, you know, do all that like nostalgic kind of feeling, because I felt not only in a reading slump but in a creative life slump. I just really felt not myself and I just needed to take some time away. I think I truly felt burnout for one of the first times in a very long time. So I just needed to take a few steps back. That's why my upload schedule has been a little bit off. You may not have noticed, but it has been. But I'm ready to get back into it. It's now April. I'm already feeling a hell of a lot better and I'm just excited to smash this month because it is the month of my readathon. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, in the month of April I am hosting a 2-week-long readathon called the Magical Hopathon, which is to celebrate Disneyland Paris' 30th anniversary. If you want more details, I'll link the announcement video up above and down below so you can check out all the details. As you're watching this, you still have time to join and to figure out your TBR, so make sure to check out that video down below. This wrap up is in the same style as my February wrap up, where I show you my reading journal and flip through the pages and show you the time lapse of creating all the spreads. So without further ado, let's hop straight into it. I actually had high hopes for March and I started off enjoying the first book I read, which was Black Girls Must Be Magic by Jane Allen, and this was the second book in a series. I read the first book, Black Girls Must Die Exhausted by Jane Allen, in February or March, no, January or February, and I really enjoyed it and I was so excited to get to the sequel. This book was just as good, however it wasn't as memorable. I'm recording this voiceover the day this video should be uploaded, which is very unorganized for me, but you guys know I have been in a life slump. Not just reading, but everything related to my life creatively has been a chore to do in the month of March, so I've only just got around to doing these voiceovers. And I say that it's not memorable because this was the first book I read in March. It took me 3 or 4 days to read and I can't really remember the plot of this book. I can remember the overall plot of the story, having read the first 2 books in the series now, but I cannot distinguish between the first book and the second book, which kind of shows that they just kind of merged into one, and the second book isn't like a proper standout book by itself. However, I loved learning more about the main character Tabby and her life and seeing her friends interact with her and just kind of to see where she's at. I do really enjoyed this series as a slice of life book, and when it came to designing the page for this book, I simply just tried to mimic the front cover in the most minimalistic way possible. And I think I achieved this. I really enjoyed how this page came out. In January, I really kind of struggled to stay creative with my reading journal, so I took a easier approach in March, trying to keep them more simplistic and just do kind of pen doodles rather than like heavy scrapbooking styles. And if I wasn't in a slump, I think this kind of technique of how to display my reading journal would have worked a lot better for me, and I really enjoyed how this page came out. However, I never filled it out with my thoughts and feelings, so I can't really remember the exact things I was feeling about this book. So that's always fun. That's all I have to say on this book. I gave it 4 stars overall. I clearly enjoyed it, but I can't remember much about it. The next book I read in March was Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas, and this was a buddy read with Reagan from Bookspot blog over on Instagram. We were planning to read it in February, but we never got around to it. I was feeling kind of slumpy in February. I thought I'd conquered my slump, and then March hit me like a tidal wave. However, I did manage to read this book. It was an audiobook. I don't think I actually said, but Black Girls Must Be Magic was also an audiobook, and that is the only way I managed to read in March was via audiobooks. This book, Cemetery Boys, wasn't my favourite. I understand the hype and I can understand why people love it so much, and I'm glad that it exists for the representation that it allows people to see themselves in this book, etc. But for me personally, the story and the plot wasn't for me. It basically follows our main character Yadriel, who is transgender and is really happy in his own skin. However, his family doesn't kind of accept him in his culture, so he goes on kind of like a mission to try and allow his family to understand where he's coming from. However, one of his cousins goes missing and there's actually a mystery involved. I wasn't expecting a mystery whatsoever, and I didn't love the mystery. I didn't really see much point in the mystery, and I didn't ever really feel intrigued by the mystery, so I didn't care for the mystery. And because that mystery was the entirety of the plot, and then there were subplots that were regarding the conversation of Yadriel's gender and being accepted in the community and in his society, I loved that part of it, and I think that's why the book is getting so much hype. It's because of the really great representation. However, the overall plot, if it wasn't for the representation, I don't think would have kind of got anywhere, but that's just my personal opinion. However, what I really enjoyed about this audiobook is it included exclusive content of the narrator and the author Adrian Thomas talking in a nice conversation at the end regarding kind of publishing and stories that kind of express themselves, because Adrian Thomas is gay and transgender and uses they them pronouns, and also the narrator is also transgender, and they were discussing how welcoming the publishing company was in allowing the narrator to be also in the same representation as the main character themselves. So I really enjoyed that conversation, and I think it's worthwhile if you're interested in reading this book to try and find the audiobook, just to have that 5-minute conversation at the end between the narrator and then the author in publishing and the LGBTQ+ community. So that was that book. I didn't love it, but you know, here's the spread for it. And the last book that I read in March that I thought actually got me out of my slump, because I managed to read it really quickly, was I Heart Paris by Lindsay Kelk. But I realised that it's just because it was a Lindsay Kelk book and it was part of a series that I love, that I'm rereading this year to annotate and tab up and kind of make part of my forever collection. I took that kind of saying from Chloe, but it's so true. Some books are part of your forever collection, and those are the books that I tend to annotate and write in just to forever keep them for myself, so I can always look back on how I was feeling when I was reading them. And I thought it got me out of my slump because I was reading it so quickly, and then I realised that I went straight back into a slump, and sometimes that happens. What I find crazy is that rereads can be very strange and a weird concept to kind of wrap your head around, because they can either make you re-fall in love with reading, or depending on how long you've left the reread for, it can give you a new perspective on the book. And when I read this book for the first time, I actually put on Goodreads that it was my favourite of the series. However, having reread the first two and going on to the third book, I realised this is the weakest, personally for me, of the series so far. I found most of the topics that were addressed were quite annoying. Maybe it's because I've grown up in age, so I'm just a bit more well versed in life, I don't know. But I found Angela quite annoying in this book. I just didn't really like the plot of it. It was kind of a bit like, did this really happen? It felt quite childish in certain aspects. So although I love Angela and I love Angela's ventures and I'll forever love this series, this reread kind of made me realise that the other books have been stronger so far in this series. My favourite, of course, always being I Heart New York, which is the first book in the series. I can't wait to reread the rest of the series so I can kind of get a full roundup of how I really feel at the age of 24, almost 25, rereading this series, because I first read them when I was like 19, 20. So it's been quite a while since I've given them another read, but I'm excited to delve into the rest of the series nevertheless. As you can see on this spread, I wanted to put the book cover in that I printed off, but I realised as soon as I stuck the Eiffel Tower down, which I did just take off Google Images, I couldn't bother to draw the detailing of that Eiffel Tower. I realised that the book cover didn't really fit anywhere, so I got handy. I started to practice my calligraphy and I redrew the font that is on the front cover, which is consistent across all the book covers, and I love these book covers so much, so I thought, why not just redraw the font and kind of take inspiration on this page. And I've realised as I've been journaling in March, I would rather have all my book spreads individually unique to that book rather than fitting into a theme of that month or fitting into a theme of the overall journal. I would rather just be creative in what do I want to do in that moment, how do I feel like the book made me feel, how do I want that book to come across when I'm flipping through these pages later on, and that's kind of the direction I'm going down with these spreads now. So they don't look consistent or part of a collection, but each spread reminds me of that specific book, which I really enjoy when I'm flicking through my journal at a quick glance. So that is my March wrap up in books. So here we are at my monthly dashboard, and as you can tell, it's visually there. I hit a slump, as you guys know already. I've mentioned it a lot in this video, and I've also mentioned it a lot on social media. And I wasn't the only one. But we're just going to move past it. I'm already feeling a lot better, having been a couple of days already into April. But I just wanted to talk you through my page count for this month. And as you can see, I started off really strong, and that was when I read Black Girls Must Die Magic and Cemetery Boys, and I was like, great, this is amazing. And then after Cemetery Boys, which I finished around the 11th, I kind of started to dwindle. And then I thought I got out of my slump around the 21st, and that was when I read I Heart Paris, and then it didn't really happen again. So that's roughly kind of what happened. And the lowdown in March, I didn't stick to a schedule because I wasn't really reading anything. I didn't really stick to my TBR whatsoever because I didn't read anything. I didn't haul any books apart from one pre-order, but I didn't pick that one up until April, so I'm kind of counting that as an April book. I didn't borrow anything because I didn't read anything, and I DNF'd 4 books. I officially DNF'd A Joy of Small Things, which I semi-DNF'd in February. I didn't want to DNF this book, but I did for now. Docile. I loved the first 200 pages. I wanted to give this book 5 stars, and then all of a sudden it just wasn't interesting to me anymore, which I hate. It's so disappointing, but that was the case. And then I tried to get out of my slump again by reading the next book in the I Heart series by Lindsay Kelk. So obviously I read I Heart Paris. I wanted to oh, okay, so that got me out of my slump. I should continue on with that series. And then I couldn't get on board with I Heart Vegas, and then I tried 1 Year of Maybe by Rachel Lynn Solomon, and that didn't work either. So I DNF'd a lot of books in March, but that was just because I was trying to find my groove back with reading. I don't usually DNF this much. Here's a quick flip over of the doodles that I do every month. This page looks so empty and bare, but I didn't realise when I started doodling them that I wouldn't fill up the rest of the page. It is what it is, but I really enjoy how I Heart Paris kind of came out. Don't like how Cemetery Boys came out, but that is fine. I gave Black Girls Must Be Magic a 4-star, Cemetery Boys 2, and I Heart Paris a 3, so a very random month in ratings as well. And as you can see, I didn't fill out Black Girls Must Be Magic, which is fine. We're fine. I'm fine. This is all good. And then we go over to the other page spread of Cemetery Boys and I Heart Paris, which you have just recently seen as well. So let's go over to my yearly spreads and fill those out together. Let's start off with my reading in review. And as we already know, I only read 3 books in March. I've done the calculations already, and that turned out to be 928 pages. With an average rating of 3. And it's quite clear that March has been my worst reading month so far of 2022, but that is fine. We've got a lot more months left to excel that and make March the worst month and leave it in that category, and the only way is up. Now let's hop on to my favourite thing, and this is my challenges. I kind of forgot about my challenges in March, but I think I did pretty well naturally anyway, so let's go ahead and see what I managed to complete. As we already know, I read 3 books in March, starting at Black Girls Must Be Magic and finishing on I Heart Paris. And my first challenge is 50% diverse. And Black Girls Must Be Magic and Cemetery Boys were both diverse, and only I Heart Paris wasn't, so that is more than 50%, so I get a little green check in that box. And it goes in there. I didn't read any translated fiction, and I didn't read any non-fiction either, so no more +1s for those 2. However, the great thing about the month of March is Black Girls Must Be Magic and Cemetery Boys were both audiobooks on Scribd, which means I get to put 2 more tokens in for my challenge of borrowed. One of my main goals in 2022 was to read more borrowed books, whether that was from Scribd or from the library. So I'm really happy that I was able to use Scribd so much this month to help me combat my slump by reading only audiobooks. So another one in there for Fat Girls Must Be Magic. A final one in there for Cemetery Boys. Now the last one is, did I complete the Buzzword-a-thon prompt for the month of March? And I completely forgot about this existing. However, the buzzword for March was locations. And guys, Paris is a location. I didn't even realise that until kind of a couple of days ago when I was thinking about my challenges for the first time in the entire month. And I get a tab for the buzzword without even trying, and I just kind of read I Heart Paris to try and get me out of my slump, and it luckily just flukily worked for the Buzzword-a-thon prompt. So I get another token, and we're putting one in there for Buzzword-a-thon. How crazy is that? So not my best month for my challenges, because as you can see, January I excelled massively, and that was just new year, new motivation, let's smash it. Didn't do great in February, even though I read 8 books, and having only read 3 books, those 3 books completed more challenges than 8 overall in February. So that's why I love this reading challenge kind of tracker so much, because it really just depends on what books you read each month rather than the quantity of books you read each month, which is brilliant. So there we have it. That is my reading journal for the month of March. How lucky was that I still managed to complete the Buzzword-a-thon without even realising it? My initial assigned book for the Buzzword-a-thon this month in March was Last Night at Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe, because I thought that was the only book on my physical TBR that had a location in the title. However, I completely disregarded the rereads that I wanted to do, which each feature a location in the title, because it is the I Heart series by Lindsay Kelk, the first one being I Heart New York, a location, I Heart Hollywood, a location, I Heart Paris, a location, etc, etc. So I managed to squeeze that in, luckily. So I'm so happy that I managed to get 3 tokens, even though I only read 3 books, which is brilliant. And guys, I'm already feeling so much better and so much more myself, and I definitely feel like I'm slowly coming out of my whole life slump, and I have started a book, which is so exciting, and I'm really enjoying it, and it's called Yinka, Where's Your Husband? And I'm really enjoying it. I just went into Waterstones one day, and it was in the new book section, and the cover attracted me, so I picked it up because I was like, why not? If this is a book that's going to get me out of the slump, I might as well. And I've been really enjoying it. This is the 3rd day of me reading it, so I am reading at a slower pace than normal, but I'm not trying to pressurize myself because I am getting out of a slump, and I don't want to like force myself to like read 300 pages a day when I have my readathon next week. It's starting next week, which is crazy. I'm so excited. So that's kind of wrapping up my March reads. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, I am still experimenting with this video. I know sometimes the layout and the camera angles aren't 100% the best, but I really still hope you enjoy this video and you get an idea of what my spreads do look like as I'm creating them in time-lapse format for you. I guess that's a way of saying it. And I guess that's it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give this video a massive thumbs up and subscribe down below to see future content from me. If you got to the end of this video, make sure you leave some journal emojis down in the description, and comment down below what you read in March. Did the March slump hit you? Because I know I'm not the only one who suffered majorly in March. Let's kickstart April, let's smash the month of April, and let's all get our reading mojos back. And yeah, I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.